Hey guys, welcome back to Bombchu. I'm Austin, and today I'll be covering the Humble Monthly Bundle from November 2017. This month's bundle has a whopping 10 games, 9 for Steam as well as a smaller experimental bundle exclusive game. That means we have a ton to cover, so let's get to it. I'll be giving my first impressions of each game and determining if they're games I'd like to continue playing. This month's exclusive title is Wilmot's Warehouse. You manage a warehouse where you alternate receiving deliveries and filling orders. When deliveries come in, you get a good amount of time to unpack and organize things the way you like, though you aren't required to do this. However, when it comes time to fill orders, organization is rewarded, as you don't have as much time and filling orders super quick grants you bonuses. Each round, more types of items are added, increasing the complexity and requiring you to get creative with your organization. This was pretty fun and creative, and while it asks for some time and effort from you, it generously rewards you for it. Our first Steam game this month is World to the West, a follow-up to one of my favorite Steam games, Teslagrad. While there are some bits and pieces of Teslagrad that I can see in here, this game is different in almost every way. 3D rather than 2D, lots of dialogue as opposed to none, and a bright tone versus a somber one. You play as 4 different characters with different skills, following different stories in different places. My favorite so far is Lumina, the Teslamancer, as she's the closest to the character from the original game, zipping around with a static dash. In my initial time here, I haven't been overjoyed with the change in direction. I'm not entirely sure what's going on, and puzzles aren't leaving me terribly satisfied. I plan to continue, but only because of my love for the original, and I hope this one picks up soon. Our next game is Resident Evil 5 Gold Edition, a co-op zombie shooter. Remember Resident Evil 4? Slap co-op in there, split the game into chapters, and you have yourself Resident Evil 5. This time you play as series veteran Chris Redfield and newcomer Sheva Alomar. If you're used to modern shooters, the controls will feel a bit odd to you for a while. Aiming locks you into place, and rather than having a reticle, you aim by looking where your laser is pointed from an over-the-shoulder perspective. Zombies are fun to kill, bosses are cool and interesting, there's lots and lots of guns to find and upgrade, and everything is super flashy. Sure, it's lost pretty much all the horror and tension the series is known for, but it's still a damn fun game. This also comes with all the DLC, including the ridiculous costumes you see here, as well as some additional story chapters. You can play solo, but you'll have to manage your partner's inventory yourself, and in real time when you can be attacked. I highly recommend playing it co-op instead. I've beaten the crap out of this one already, unlocking infinite ammo for multiple guns, including the rocket launcher, and playing through again with superpowers like that is a ton of fun. Next up is Shadow Tactics: Blades of the Shogun, a tactical stealth game set in the Edo period. This game gives you some really powerful tools to let you see where enemies can see, where they can hear, if an attack you're going to try will be noticed by others, and much more. Levels are designed so that you need to use all these tools, or you'll die very quickly. Fortunately, the game allows you to quick save at any time, and if it's been a little while since your last save, you'll be shown how long it's been as a little reminder. You can also play entirely with a controller, and despite a slightly wonky camera, I'm incredibly impressed at how they managed to fit everything into that control scheme. The UI even changes entirely when you flip between keyboard and mouse and a controller. It would have been very easy for this game to fall flat on its face for me, but everything that went wrong was very clearly my fault, and I still had a lot of fun with it, even if it is probably too hard for me to finish. If you're a fan of hardcore stealth games, you should definitely play this one. Game 5, and our first Bethesda game, is Quake Champions, a class-based take on arena shooters. I like shooters, it's a genre I play a lot, but every now and then I find a shooter that I just can't find much to like about it, and in its current form, Quake Champions is one of these games. Let's start with the core game. You get slapped into matches against other players, and your goal is to get the most points either as a team or by yourself, usually by getting kills. You can choose a character to play as and one of 3 starting weapons. Starting weapons are truly terrible and shouldn't be used ever. The only weapons that are worth a damn must be picked up on the map, and if skilled players are guarding them, don't expect to get by them with your starting gun. Power weapons should feel powerful, and they do here, but they should feel like an extra edge in battle, not an absolute necessity. Movement is at 1 speed, no run button, similar to Doom, but unlike Doom, movement in Quake feels just a bit slow. You have a single jump, which feels pretty short, and you can't grab ledges to climb up, so you'll have to rely on ramps and jump pads for most upward movement. Characters each have a special ability, and this seems to be the extent of the class system. My favorite character so far has been BJ Blazkowicz, both because he's from Wolfenstein and because his ability allows him to temporarily dual-wield anything. Oh yes, even rocket launchers. Abilities add a bit to the formula, but they don't last long and have long cooldowns. With multiple abilities, this would be fine, but with just one, it leaves the game feeling antiquated most of the time. I also ran into frame rate issues. If you have a monitor that runs faster than 60 Hz, you'll have to dig into the forums to find some launch options you'll need to add manually. Additionally, while I was playing, forum members figured out that damage and physics are tied to the frame rate, arbitrarily unleveling the playing field. The game is currently in early access, costing $30, with plans for it to go free to play when it fully launches. For that same price, or less if you catch it in a sale, you can get Doom, which is incredibly polished, has a full and excellent single-player campaign, and in my opinion, a much better multiplayer. If significant changes are made, I'd be willing to take another look here when the game is finished, but until then, I have to pass. The next Bethesda game is The Elder Scrolls Online, an MMO. I certainly have thoughts on this game and have played it for a number of hours in the past, but my buddy Blake has played far more than I have, and he's here to provide a deeper view of the game.
I love MMOs, and I love Elder Scrolls, so when I heard about ESO, I was cautiously optimistic. The kind of open-ended gameplay that Elder Scrolls games employ doesn't seem to fit with the rigid complexity that most MMOs usually require. When I first played ESO, I wasn't impressed. A good chunk of the modern MMO features were there, but the world definitely didn't feel like Elder Scrolls. There was little exploration potential. Leveling was linear, and 2/3 of the world was locked away from me. And while the quests were great, I felt forced into each one, not like I discovered them. Fast forward to more recently, an update arrived for the game that finally pointed the game in the right direction. For the first time, the entire map is unlocked for exploration. If you don't like your starting city, go to one of the other two and start there. While the main story does follow a straight path, most of the fun is striking out on your own and discovering and foiling Daedric influences without the gentle push from the NPCs. When you stumble upon a quest, you really feel like you discovered it. And the quests are of the typical Elder Scrolls caliber. You could discover the now immortal ex-lover of a Daedric prince buried deep in ruins as punishment, or uncover the secret of a suspiciously tight-lipped village. Oh, and all the quests are 100% voice acted. Something few if any other modern MMO can boast. The combat system is quite different from your typical Elder Scrolls game, but in some ways it has to be. While it is more rigid than Elder Scrolls games, it's more open-ended than most MMOs I've played. Each of the 5 classes can take masteries towards being a tank, or a DPS, or a healer, but if you're expecting to become a god of both magic and physical, you'll be sorely disappointed. Hybrid builds are incredibly weak. That's not to say, though, that an entirely physical-based sorcerer isn't a valid option. In fact, it's one of my favorite builds I played. Character builds are also varied and interesting, though most physical builds go for dual wield and bow. In terms of combat, I find that mastery of your character is too twitch-based for me. That may be something you want in a game, but for me it really distracted from it. To play really well, abilities usually require a repetitive action to cancel the animations in order to activate the next one sooner. That level of frequent repetitive action really makes being good at playing your character not fun for me. It's not a slight boost either, it's pretty big. While I never got to endgame play, which is unusual for me, I understand that the fights were designed with this community-discovered feature in mind. If you aren't animation canceling, you're dragging your team down. Now, it's not all negative. The game is legitimately fun to play. Questing is interesting, and the world is beautiful, diverse, and dense. Most of the typical Elder Scrolls guilds have interesting quest lines and come with unique perks to help round out your character's skills. While PvP isn't my thing, I find it actually quite fun in ESO. Most people compare it to Dark Age of Camelot, but a little dumbed down. Crafting is a hybrid of time-consuming, frustrating, but truly satisfying, once you spend the 2 to 3 months required to research everything. And the market system is quite interesting, if entirely inconvenient without mods. Oh yeah, there's sanctioned third-party UI mods available, and they're pretty nice. Overall, I would absolutely recommend ESO to an Elder Scrolls fan looking to get that extra fix while we wait for the next Elder Scrolls game. Even if you don't play it like an MMO, you'll enjoy yourself. I wouldn't recommend the game to MMO players looking for a strong endgame though. It's there, but it's minimal.
The final Bethesda game is The Elder Scrolls Legends, a card game. I'm very biased when it comes to card-based games. I tend to hate them a lot, especially action card games. So when I saw this would be in the bundle, I was really not looking forward to playing it, but surprisingly, I actually quite enjoyed it. It shares a great deal with Hearthstone, based on a wildly popular game franchise, similar class system and gameplay rules. It even has a mobile version. However, there are some interesting differences that show up as you start to get into the nitty-gritty. For example, the board has lanes. Cards placed to fight for you must be placed in a lane, and they can only fight other cards in that lane, forcing you to defend and attack on multiple fronts. Additionally, lanes can have different effects on them, like a shroud that protects cards for one turn after they've been played. It's decent fun, and the tutorial makes sure to teach you what you need to know while also letting you play some fun battles. Even if you don't like card games, I would say give it a try. You may be surprised like I was. Our next game is, well, it depends on where you live. If you aren't in Germany, you got Dead Rising 2, another co-op zombie game from Capcom. Dead Rising is a lot goofier than Resident Evil, allowing you to use pretty much anything as a weapon, even if it may not be all that effective. In this game, you take control of Chuck, who is trying to take care of his daughter. She has the zombie virus, but a treatment called Zombrex has been developed. She has to take it every day during a specific 1-hour window. Taking it too early will kill her through overdose. Taking it too late, she'll become a zombie. So you're tasked with solving problems and finding people to bring back to your safe house, while also needing to find more Zombrex and keeping an eye on the timer. It's decent, goofy fun, but the whole Zombrex thing kinda kept me from feeling like I could run around and goof off. Despite its flaws, I personally prefer Dead Rising 3, which felt like it had a lot more freedom despite having more direction in its story. If you are in Germany, well, Dead Rising 2 is banned there, so you get Resident Evil 6 instead. Resident Evil 6 is like Resident Evil 5, except it kinda sucks. Characters trip over dead bodies, the camera is constantly doing stupid things, and long animations really slow things down. It does have a lot of content, coming with 4 big campaigns, and it also has some pretty cool networking features, like if you run into a character from another campaign, the game will try to find someone playing that character at that point in their campaign to join with you. Or a player can invade your game and take control of one of the monsters, often playing smarter than the AI. Unfortunately, a lot of these don't get much use anymore since most players have moved on to other games. I liked this game when I first played it at launch, but these days, it's hard to stomach. Best played with a friend so you can make fun of it together. Next is Silence, a point-and-click adventure from Daedalic. I don't know why, but it seems like every Daedalic game I play on my PC has frame rate issues during cutscenes. This is just hard to look at. Similar to their series Deponia, here you can hold a button to highlight interactive objects so you don't have to pixel hunt with your mouse. Unfortunately, I still hate traditional style point-and-click adventures like this because it's sluggish and punishes you for clicking the wrong thing by making you wait. Ugh, so much waiting. Click a thing, character does an animation, pauses, says a long line of dialogue, making an observation, pauses, does another animation, and that was all a totally optional interaction, where he observed some fog. None of it is skippable. It just leaves me falling asleep. If you're into this type of game, at the very least, it has an interesting art style and some beautiful music. The story has some potential as well. I won't be continuing, but I know this was on the wishlist for a number of people. Our final game is Emily is Away 2, a follow-up to the free game Emily is Away. In it, you interact with characters through AOL Instant Messenger as a high school student in 2006. You get to pick an icon, fill out your profile, choose your messaging color scheme, and everything. As you chat, you get to choose from different predetermined text options, and then you can just mash random keys to get your character to type out the proper message. The game has a lot of authenticity to it and a great attention to detail. If you were a teenager back in 2006, this will bring you a lot of nostalgia. I don't want to get much more into it because I don't want to spoil the story, but if you like narrative games, give this a go. You don't need to have played the first one, though it is free and worth playing if you're into this type of game. I'll definitely be finishing this one. So overall, how was this bundle? As someone who has found something to like about almost every monthly bundle, I was disappointed this month. 5 of the games were repeats for me, and I wasn't terribly wowed by the ones that weren't. Resident Evil 5 and 6, as well as Dead Rising 2, have all been in past bundles. The 3 headliners consist of a free-to-play game, a soon-to-be free-to-play game, and an MMO that doesn't require a monthly fee, but really tries to push you into paying it anyways. There was also a lot of releases from just a few big names, with 3 from Bethesda, 3 from Capcom, and 2 from Daedalic. So how much bang for your buck was there? To total everything up, getting all these at full price would cost about $195. Getting all these at their lowest sale price would rack up a cost of about $75. Despite the high game count and cash value, this was a pretty disappointing bundle for me, and didn't leave me with much to play through November. Thankfully, that means I'll have more time to tackle big games from last month like Super Mario Odyssey. Next month's bundle has H1Z1, which really has me scratching my head, but let's hope the rest of the games are more interesting. Last month, we tried to do our first giveaway, and it was a huge disaster. After asking people to comment to enter the drawing, I realized there's not really a good way to contact people through YouTube. So I tried replying to comments to let people know they had won and asked them to private message me through YouTube, only to find out that YouTube does a horrible job at showing you replies to private messages. Only one winner reached out to us, and we're not even sure if he redeemed his key or not. Last month's winners were 13MaryLou11, Justin Brown, Otto Zentars, and Chozo Hybrid. If you won, please email me at austin@bombchu.com and we'll get it straightened out. As for this month, we've got extra keys for Resident Evil 5 Gold, as well as Dead Rising 2. To enter the giveaway, email me at austin@bombchu.com, letting me know your YouTube username, as well as what game you're hoping to win. If you've made it this far into the video, thank you so much for sticking around. You guys are truly the best. Tomorrow, November 4th, starting at 10 a.m. Central Time, I'll be streaming a 24-hour game marathon for Extra Life benefiting Texas Children's Hospital. I'll be streaming here on the Bombchu YouTube channel, and my buddy Gabe will be streaming on the Bombchu Twitch channel. I'll have links to both of those in the description below. Come by and say hi, and if you're really into it, consider making a donation. We'll have links to our Extra Life pages on our streams tomorrow. Thanks a ton for watching, and we really hope to see you there.